Psychedelic mushrooms are getting much, much stronger. And cultivators are turning to genetic sequencing and cellular manipulation techniques to breed highly potent mushrooms, leaving some unprepared psychonauts in distress. So earlier this year, Julian Matucci, also known as God Emperor Maiko, this is such an MSG story, was creating new generations of spores from some psilocybe subtricalis mushrooms that have been procured online and, from a popular supplier. He claims to have not been working them for potency, but rather than arrive at a cleaner, more robust genetic structure to fix issues caused by sustained inbreeding. Common in the field that has long been run by amateurs, interbreed too much, the mushrooms can lack general health, produce lesser yields, and sometimes grow lower strength. After 3 cultivation cycles, the self-taught mycologist who runs the Colorado-based psychedelic research company Imperial Labs decided it was time to try what he had produced. An experienced psychonaut, he was astonished. It floored me. I've never been hit like that by mushrooms, Matucci says. He consumed them fresh in a dose that would be equivalent to no more than 1.5 grams of the dried fungi, which is significantly below the amount generally required to break through and have a significant trip. I knew that they had to be really powerful because I couldn't get out of my bed for about 3 or 4 hours. The first hour or 2 felt like a DMT experience. It's the type of super strong mushroom trip that people are increasingly reporting. New cultivation methods are making psychedelic mushrooms stronger, and fiendishly potent varieties are kicking in faster and lasting longer. Even if you eat only a fraction of what you thought would just be another variety. Subsequent testing showed that that one batch of Matucci's mushrooms contained about almost 5% psychedelic alkaloids, which is once unheard of within the genus. Typically, mushrooms contain 1% of these psychoactive compounds, although species like psilocybe acicrurinans are generally stronger, and some varieties within the same genus are even more potent. All right, so just skimming through some of this because it's a pretty long one here. I'm going to the summary at the end. I should have just punched this into ChatGPT, but anyways. Basically, mushrooms are getting much, much, much stronger, and they're comparing this to what has happened recently in the cannabis industry.
Mm-hmm.
My take on this is whenever I have done mushrooms, I am more of the macro dose guy myself, and I like to trip. I don't even like the, like a little, enhance my mood, but that's just me. It's always made my artwork better. It's always made my mood after the trip better. And I enjoy it that way. So I welcome the stronger mushrooms.
Yes.
I'd like to hear from the rest of you guys. What do you think?
I mean, they're just trying to just say basically the same thing that they're saying about weed. The weed's too strong now. Everyone should stay away from it.
It's about
that's funny because there's this huge trend in people wanting to microdose, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, which is just kind of like the opposite, isn't it?
That is. You're exactly right about that, doctor. Because microdose, I don't understand why anyone microdoses, but to each their own. But there is.
I think okay, so if they have to function as like a school teacher or a school bus driver, or has to work behind a counter at a bank or something, and they can't just be, undergoing a psychedelic experience without completely being able to do their job, especially like you think of a teacher, right? Teacher does not want to be like having a psychedelic experience when you're in front of a class of like 3rd graders, but maybe at the microdose level, and maybe Dr. T can comment on this, there's kind of like a way that it could be, completely high functioning while still having maybe the edge cut off of anxiety or, I don't know.
Well, think about it this way. What are you trying to achieve? Because there's many things you can achieve with cannabis. You can relax, you can get to and go to sleep, or you can get to a point of altered perception, right? And psychological perceptual shifts. What are you going for? Some people tell me they don't want to get high. they are just want to relieve the pain or they want to get to sleep. And so coaching them on how to do that with the plant really depends on talking about the active ingredients and what appropriate doses are for you. So this article goes back to dosage. I mean, you can make it as strong as you want, and that just means for some people they're going to take less, and for some people they're going to achieve what they're looking for a lot easier. Either way, it's up to you, the dosage and the safety. It's not a negative thing. It's what we do with every medicine.
Right. And but don't you think in general that the fact that there are more people maybe using it in a microdose way is kind of better than, you talked earlier about wanting to reduce your medicines, right? And so if you're not having to take some pill for treating some disease, but you can microdose and still be able to function, I mean,
it's a great way to use it. It depends on the situation, but it's a great way to use. Microdosing is a great way to use it. It's but no judgment. It's where are you going in this life, and I'm here to be your guide.
Mm-hmm. There's a time and place for everything, right? Like if I need my day to be like a little sparkly, I'm depressed, like I'll grab a micro, right, with some like lion's mane, cordyceps, reishi, a little bit.
How much, Jenny? Just tell our audience, like, what is a microdose for someone like you?
A 0.25. So I have a capsule with 0.25.
Say that again?
A 0.25 capsule. Yeah.
And that's the weight of the total dried mushroom. It's not
Correct.
The weight of the specifically psilocybin by the way, but it's a good way to guess. I've seen microdoses range from 0.15 to 0.2 to 0.25. Yeah.
Yeah. So I keep it low, but it makes my day sparkly.
If you wanted to have a mushroom experience, how many of those capsules would you have to take? Like if you're at a festival or a show and you just want to do your thing.
All of them. You gotta take all of them.
What do you mean? You take like at least an
Well,
8?
No. So I have a friend who formulates those for me, and I keep those for specifically microdosing. If I want to have like a full reset, right, and I need to everything's just all bad, we're super down bad, I need to sit with myself and my thoughts, or I'm going to panic, or whatever I'm doing, right? 3 to 4 grams.
Yeah, I'm all for the hard
wow.
with that.
Woo!
Yeah,
I'm a deadhead too, Dr. Mark.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So that kind of tells you like you could titrate yourself to a low microdose level, still drive your automobile, still make checks at the bank and not overdraw. You could still function, right? With maybe so. In your why are you microdosing? Like Dr. T said, what are you looking to get out of a microdose?
So after years of domestic violence, I was diagnosed with PTSD and generalized high anxiety disorder secondary to that. And so for me, obviously, I am a people person. I enjoy being social. I enjoy networking. It's a large part of what I do. And with that, unfortunately, there are some days where my anxiety is just not the greatest, and I'm not able to be the person that I want to be. So it gives me that little, I call it making my day a little bit sparkly. That gives me that edge.
Controlling anxiety. Controlling anxiety is, I mean, that's what I find with people is that they're microdosing for those reasons. Other people believe that it gives them an extra pep in their step because they're kind of more aware of their environment. But I think there's something to be said about that, and not to say that there's nothing wrong with the other end of the dosing spectrum. Like Dr. T said, it depends where you want to go. If you want to go there, you go there. You could always eat more, you can't eat less, right?
Right. Are you trying to see the peacocks on the top of the pine trees or not?
It depends. Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not going to lie and say I'm not just lazy, but I haven't done the research. Yeah, I'll just keep it a buck. I have not done the research enough on mushrooms to understand them enough to just be like, yo, I'm Truman. I'm about to trip balls. And that's the end of it. You know, it's like I want to learn how to microdose and everything, but every time I get like a little taste of it, I'm like, yo, give me all them shits.
Yeah.
Well, Rico, that's
like
what we
the
call
taste,
portion control.
Rico likes the taste.
Yeah. I think I talk about how much I dislike cannabis events now, right? And I find myself often having to microdose before one of those because then I'm just happy to see you, as opposed to, don't talk to me.
Well, Jenny, I want to ask you one other question. So if you're like microdosing during the day, but then you go to a show at night and now you want to get your game full on, does that microdosing in the day? So because one thing I noticed with LSD is that if you do it repeatedly, like a night after night, it's never as good the second night as it was like the first night, right? Like you're kind of like you're titrating your system at that point, and like, does the microdosing affect you wanting to or ability to go large later on in that day?
I don't think so. I mean, that's not been my experience with it. I think that, I haven't noticed that. I don't know. Maybe I'll pay attention. But I know exactly what you're talking about, right? A 3-night run, you got to figure out if what you're doing mushrooms the first night, you're doing whatever the second night, because the law of diminishing returns for long range music festivals.
You know, only users lose drugs.
Yeah. And man, you don't want to be a quitter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, don't be a quitter.
Right, Jason? Yeah. Quitters never win.
Quitters never win. That's right.
They don't.